Hey, sports fans, PB&Z Sports Chaos. We get a little World Series wrap up. We'll talk about that. The college football playoff rankings came out. A lot of shock there. We're going to talk about that in our college foreplay as well. The NFL trade deadline came and went, and I think they should rename that the DUD-LINE. PB's got a good beer going on tonight. What are you drinking, brother?
I got myself a Funky Buddha Hop Gun IPA. This is a brewery that's located in Oakland Park, Florida, which is basically right outside of Fort Lauderdale. And it's a great IPA 7.0.
Nice. Good for you. I'm going to have a little scotch tonight. A little nightcap.
All right.
Hey, before we head into the talk about the Braves, PB, big news story today in the NHL. Vegas, my team to win the Cups, gets Jack Eichel. I know he's not going to play for 4 months because he's going to get the surgery. It still blows my mind that the Sabres were not going to let him get this surgery that he's needing. I don't even understand how that happens. We'll talk about that another time, but is that a good move of the Knights? I mean, they gave up a couple players that helped that team, but to get him Jack Eichel?
Yeah, they gave up 2 players and a couple draft picks as well. But Eichel's he's a legitimate, top 10 player in this league. So I think it's a good move for Vegas. He's young. Maybe they just don't have confidence that he can come back from his, surgery.
My understanding was they don't believe he needs the surgery, and that's the biggest thing. So we'll see. But the Sabres have a lot of issues in the first place, right? So
yeah, and then you never know what goes on behind. Yeah, you never know what goes on behind the closed doors too. That player just might not be a good fit for their organization. They might not get along, and they just wanted to say, hey, let's get something for him because he is talented.
Oh, yeah, and he's still young. He's really young. He's only in his 3rd year, right? I mean, is he even 21 yet? Unbelievable. All right, let's move on here. Congrats to the former Boston Braves. Yes, I know they're Atlanta Braves, but they were in Boston first. The Boston Braves, they won their first World Series since 1995. Remember the 90s, PB? They were like winning the division title every year and like in the World Series like 5 or 6 years, right? It's hard to believe they only won once back then. 95 was the only time, but they did it this time. They beat those pukes, the Houston Astros. You and I both picked the Astros. I'm happy the Braves won. I'm surprised the way it happened. I thought the Astros had it right where they wanted to once Atlanta went up 2-1. But boy, oh boy. And by the way they did it, 4 guys to the trade deadline, while instrumental. 2 of them one of them was the LCS MVP. The other one, Jorge Soler, was the World Series MVP, right?
Yeah. Yeah, good for them.
And they were this is what gets me. This is crazy. They were under 500 till mid-August. They lost an MVP candidate, Ronald Acuna, who you and I both liked at the beginning of the year. We had him as one of our fantasy studs, right? Yeah. The other kid, Azuna, which no one talks about, but they had to get rid of him because of domestic issue, right? So that they got rid of that guy. And then they bring these 4 guys in and no one was expecting what they would do. There they are. They win the World Series. Good for them. And good for Freddie Freeman, a class act, huh?
He is really a class act. Even his interview on the field after they won was pretty, just nice. He's just a humble guy,
He's a very humble guy, man. Oh, yeah. Unbelievable.
And you know what? The Braves kind of reminded me of some of the Red Sox teams that won when they were like scrappy, when they first kind of, beat the Yankees for that first time in 2004. I feel like the teams had some similarities with the character of the team and the way they just were scrappy, and it was good. It was a good World Series.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, moving on. I was initially going to call this the Kyrie Award because it was, such a bonehead, but it was also so sad. Henry Ruggs, the guy was looking great, having a good second year in the NFL, has a car crash, DUI, kills somebody down in Vegas. This just blows my mind, PB. It's 3:50 in the morning. He's doing 156 miles an hour on basically like a 2-lane road, I guess. And he's got a blood alcohol of 0.161. What? You're in the NFL. If you're that loaded, call a car service. The NFL, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but they have car services all prearranged. Anytime you go out in the NFL, you can get a car like that. It's all prearranged. Every team has this at their disposal for all their players.
Yeah, and even just being out until 3 o'clock in the morning, like it's just like you have to work, you have practice, you have to, you could be spending that time doing things that are more productive. I just think Vegas is a trap. right? It's a trap for players. I think it was it Josh Jacobs or one of the other players on the team also got pulled over. He wasn't under the influence though, but he was.
Okay.
He got a violation, and again, it was like a 3 o'clock in the morning violation. These players are just hanging out way too late, and
It's one thing to hang out, I guess, if you don't have practice the next day, right? Because maybe you had a game on Thursday or something. I forget what the situation was, but
yeah, but sleep is important. You have to have a good sleep when you're an athlete. You talk to Tom Brady about this, right?
yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's why he's playing till he's 44. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
you have to have a regimen. You have to have a schedule. Sleep is part of that. And if you once you throw that cycle off by staying out till 4 a.m, everything gets messed up. You know,
it's too bad because he's done. I don't think he plays in the NFL. Do you ever again?
No. He's gonna get he might get jail time.
Oh, I think so, without a doubt.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to the real Kyrie Award winner, fans. As you know, the Kyrie Award winner is the guy that did this, or gal could be as well, that did the stupidest, idiot, most boneheaded thing of the week. And this week, to me, it was pretty easy. Aaron Rodgers, my boy, my survivor quarterback. What the heck? Listen, back in August, you asked the question, you vaccinated? Your answer was, I'm immunized. No one asked him to specify what it was. It turns out his immunization was this: some marijuana, some ammonia, a little scotch sprinkled with aspirin, all mixed up. That was his immunization. Come on, man. This is unbelievable. And you know what the worst thing is? Here's the other thing. Because he was not vaccinated, and it was determined, the NFL said, no, that's a phony immunization. You're not vaccinated. They said it all along since the first week of September. The fact is, he was seen in interviews on the Green Bay campus, which means you're in the arena, inside the facility. When you're not vaccinated, you're required to be masked. There's going to be some big repercussions to come out of this thing. I don't know if he gets suspended, but there's going to be some fines for sure. They're going to get some draft picks taken away, I guarantee. This is going to really hurt Green Bay down the road. And he can't play this week in a big game against KC, which I think they probably would have won with him there, but we'll talk about that. We'll get that in our picks. Oh, bad move in my mind. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. He's been just a weird dude. This whole ever since they had the whole front office and disagreement, was he going to play or not, hold out or not? That whole mystery over the summertime, and they had different clips of him responding to the question, "Are you going to stay in Green Bay?" And every time he answers a question, he just sounds like he's out in left field. He's like, I have no idea. This guy's brain is just different. And
I mean, I know he's a very intellectual guy. He went to the University of Cal, right? That's a really tough school to go to academically, but whoa, he's out there. You're right. All right, let's do a little college football talk. The college football playoff rankings came out. Georgia was number 1, well-deserved. Alabama was number 2. You could say, okay, they got one loss, but they've been playing well. But then I went to Michigan State, number 3. They are undefeated. They had a great win and a great game against Michigan last week. Oregon moved up to number 4. They have a big win against Ohio State. After that, you have these other undefeated teams like Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Wake Forest, who are all conference leaders. I know since he's not in a Power 5, but they're behind Michigan, who lost to Michigan State. I know it's a great game, but you can't have undefeated teams that far down the pipe.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think Coastal Carolina's undefeated too. So, I mean,
no, they lost. Fortunately,
they finally lost the game. All right, but you gotta. I
would say this. I would agree with you to one point. If Cincinnati didn't beat Notre Dame and they beat them handily, and Notre Dame's number 10, you got to give them some credit for that.
No, I do. But here's the thing, Russ. If you have them play the same schedule, right? If Cincinnati played the same schedule as Michigan State or Michigan or Oklahoma or any of these other teams, Alabama, Georgia, give them the same schedule, what would their record be? They'd probably be like 4-5 or 5-4.
Well, that's what we want to believe because they play in a weak conference, but we don't know until they play the game. That's why the edict is, in this case, on any given Saturday.
Yeah, but week in and week out, Ross, going up against Florida and having Georgia the next week and then LSU, and then you got, I mean, that wears down your team.
I'm with you. To some degree, I agree. On the other hand, Oklahoma's in a Power 5 conference. They're undefeated. And they're number 8. I mean, that blows my mind. Yeah. Now, granted, I will say this.
Probably because their
Oklahoma-
wins haven't been impressive. They've just barely beat teams.
I get it, but they're still undefeated and they're in a Power 5 conference. They should at least
I
be.
agree.
We're going to give Cincinnati a nod down because they're scheduled, and Oklahoma should be above them at that point in time because
They
they're in
should.
a Power 5.
And in Oklahoma, if they win out with the rest of their schedule, they'll definitely be in the CFP. There's no question.
Here's my prediction. So Michigan still has to play Ohio State and Penn State. Michigan State has to play Ohio State and Penn State as well. At the end of the day, I got a funny feeling you might see 2 losses in the Big Ten championship game. And at that point in time, there's no way a Big Ten team gets into this thing, I don't think. We'll see, but that's the way I see it playing out. In Oregon, by the way, if they run the table, there's no way Ohio State can leapfrog them no matter how many, if they win the rest of those games, because Oregon beat Ohio State.
Yep, I agree.
So,
And you know how we feel about the Big Ten, so.
yeah. And by the way, Alabama, if they lose, let's say they run the table, and but don't forget, they got to go to Auburn this year, which is not easy for them, no matter what the teams look like. So they got to win that game. If they don't win it, I mean, they still probably make it to the conference championship. But if they lose a second game to Georgia, they're out of the equation, right? So,
Yeah,
we'll see. More to see on that. But it was interesting the way it rolled out in the first the ballot. That's for sure. I was kind of surprised. I mean, especially Oklahoma being 8th when they're number 4 in the coaches poll and the AP poll. So we'll see. All right, hey, let's get to our foreplay. Last week, you and I had an ugly week. We were 1-3. Money was 4-0. Here we were criticizing, but he goes 4-0. Let's see what it looks like this week. Speaking of Wake Forest, that's our first pick. Number 8, Wake Forest goes to UNC. UNC's a favorite. This is like the 3rd week in a row we've had a ranked team being an underdog to an unranked team, right? So 2.5 points for North Carolina as the favorite, right? What do you think?
Yeah, and 2 weeks ago it worked in our favor when we were picking, against those teams. Last week we did the same thing, and it didn't go in our favor. I like the home team here. I like North Carolina. I'll lay the points. I think Vegas knows that North Carolina is a talented team, even though Wake Forest is undefeated, that they could very easily hand them their first loss. And if they're going to lose, hey, if they lose by 1 or 2 and don't cover, so be it. But I think they'll win by 3.
I'm with you. I think so as well. North Carolina was my sleeper way back at the beginning of the year for our preview show, right? So, all right, number 12, Auburn heads to the road to play Texas A&M, which I believe is 13, if I'm not mistaken, at this point in time. A&M's big cachet win was beating Alabama, but they lost another game since then. But they're 4.5-point favorites against Auburn, another team ranked low. What do you think?
Yeah, and this one is it's at Texas A&M, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I'll take the points with Auburn. I've watched Auburn play some games. I think people were a little bit higher at A&M because of their big win over Alabama, obviously. That might be playing into this a little bit, but I'm going to go with Auburn.
By the way, G Money, I forgot to mention, had North Carolina as well in the previous game. He's got Auburn in this one. You got Auburn. I'm going to go with A&M on this one. And by the way, I don't know why I am, because OU needs Auburn to beat A&M to make the Alabama game against A&M look even worse. All right.
Yeah.
Next game, OSU, Oklahoma State, number 11. They go and have a tough road game. West Virginia is unranked. It's a 3-point favorite for Oklahoma State, but West Virginia is very tough. What do you think?
Yeah, they've played some tough games this year too. So this could be a trap, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma State and lay the points.
Ooh, I am as well. G Money's got West Virginia. I don't know what he's thinking, but I'm going for Oklahoma State because I also need this team to win for my OU. All right, next, staying in the Big 12. Texas goes to Iowa State. Both of them were ranked at one point in time, but they've had a tough season with some devastating losses. Iowa State's a 6.5-point favorite in this game at Iowa State. What do you think? G Money likes Iowa State.
Yeah, and I do too. I'm with G Money pretty much across the board here. I think the only one we got different is the Auburn. Is the West Virginia one. But Iowa State at home. Texas hasn't impressed me this year. I'll take Iowa State.
You know what? I'm gonna root for the Longhorns in this one. I'm rooting for the
All right.
Longhorns in this one. I don't know why, but I am. Hey, it's 6.5 points. Longhorns just have to be within the field goal, I think. So we'll see. I got Longhorns.
All right.
All right, let's get to the NFL. The trade deadline came and went. Like we said, it was a dud. There was really one significant move. It was Von Miller going out to Denver for basically a bag of donuts, I think, right? Was that what it was?
Yeah. No, went to the Rams. Yeah.
Rams, I'm sorry, from Denver.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a huge move. Does that make the Rams, in your opinion, 1 or 2 in the NFC?
I already had the Rams high. I mean, even though they lost that one game to who did they lose the Cardinals? No, who beat the Rams? Who beat them?
They lost the Cardinals. They lost to Arizona.
Yeah, they lost the Cardinals. Yeah, they lost the Cardinals. Even though they lost that game, I still thought, you play those two teams 10 times, the Rams would win 7 or 8 of them. So I didn't look at that as a way of Arizona actually being ranked higher than where the Rams should be ranked. So I'm still high on the Rams. I still think the Rams and the Bucs, are probably the 2 teams. So I mean, I know there's so many good teams in the NFC with Dallas and Green Bay, but you got to put the Rams there. I mean, I think the Rams can very easily be in the NFC Championship game this year.
And by the way, your Dolphins were tempted to go after Deshaun, but apparently the Texans didn't like the offer. It sounds like, correct?
Yeah, and I just have no question for that's another whole thing that happened over the whole summer where we would just question ourselves every day what was going to happen there.
Yep.
And Houston's just a franchise in disarray. That team's not going to be good for years.
By the way, I hate to say it though, PB, the Texans play the Dolphins in the toilet bowl this weekend, right?
Yeah, it's in Miami. I have to go to that game because I have tickets. So I'll be at that game rooting for Mike Gesicki because I just acquired him in a trade in my fantasy.
Oh, all right. Bring your toilet
thing
bowl.
I got going for me.
Hey, is Tennessee screwed now with Derrick Henry? That's a devastating loss, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're screwed, but it is a devastating loss just because the conference is weak. Vrabel can coach that team up. Indy's the only team that can realistically catch them.
And in theory, they got a 3-game lead over Indy at this point. No, actually a 4-game in theory, right? They've already swept the Colts and they're 2 games up on them, right?
Oh, did they sweep them? I didn't know they played twice already, but yeah, if they
they did, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they'll have to finish a game ahead of them. So it's 3 games. But you'll see. I mean, we got an easy game for Indy tonight, right? Against the Jets, and we'll see what happens. But I think the Colts can still win this division.
Don't knock the Jets after that big win against Cincinnati last week. You never know. That was unbelievable as well, right?
No, that killed me. My survivor pool. I had a lot of people had Cincinnati in their survivor pools last week.
The other big one was New Orleans. Jameis Winston, he was, having a decent year, right? In this big comeback year, gets knocked out of the game. He's done for the season. His backup, Trevor Siemian, comes in and beats the Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, for crying out loud. Brady had an okay game, 4 touchdowns, but he had 2 turnovers, right?
Yeah, and one was a pick 6. New Orleans is sneaky. Their defense is legit. And
how far can they go, though? I don't know if Trevor Siemian can lead them. And Mike Thomas ain't coming back, right?
Right. And we'll see if Taysom Hill maybe ends up getting behind center there. But there's too much talent in the NFC this year. I mean, if it was the NFC of 2 or 3 years ago, you could say the Saints could maybe hang around. But this year, there's too much talent. I can't. If they make the playoffs, they're probably going to play a game on the road in the cold in the middle of January, against Green Bay or something, and they'll get smoked.
Going back to the AFC, Cincy has a big game. We're going to pick this in a moment. Cleveland comes to Cincy this week, but Cleveland, a lot of noise out of Cleveland this week. OBJ dad is not happy. He thinks his son is not getting looked at by Baker Mayfield. Little turmoil over there. Is that going to rear its ugly head? By the way, OBJ has not practiced the last 2 days. They sent him home. They said, don't practice, right?
Yeah. I thought he was going to be your Kyrie award when you mentioned.
I was close until I heard all the circumstances around A-Rod, and I said, no, nothing could be dumber than that. But we'll see. Hey, by the way, don't forget, OBJ lost for the season last year, and Baker had his best year, and they went 11-5, right?
Yeah, his statistics are better. His QBR is better. His completion percentage is better. He has his touchdown and interception ratio is better when OBJ is not on the field than when he is on the field. So I think that tells you something.
The talk right now, real quick, and I know we're going to move, but they're talking about waiving him, and they're like, where can he go? And everybody's like, Green Bay. And I mean, the waiver wire still in the NFL is like in baseball. Worst team don't they get the first shot?
I don't know how the waiver wire works.
That's what I went to look that up. I don't know, but supposedly they're thinking that he might get waived. What a shock! I mean, just put him on the bench, put him on reserve or something, and just wait to the end of the offseason and trade him next year, right?
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, let's do some picks. G Money kept up his perfection. He was 4-0 in the foreplay, and he went 0-6 in the pick six.
He went 0-6.
He did, yes.
Holy moly! I know we had bad weeks. I think we only went like 2-4, right?
We were 2-4, yeah. So we gotta make up some games this week. So let's start with Minnesota at Baltimore. Minnesota won that game, lost that game without Dak Prescott playing. I'm surprised by that, but I did still pick the Cowboys. But they go to Baltimore. A lot of injuries in Baltimore. What do you think?
Yeah. And here's a team that's right on the fringe of that 7th playoff spot, right? The Minnesota Vikings, and they do have a pretty talented offense. Dalvin Cook.
You picked them to win the division.
Yeah, and Dalvin Cook's back, and you got Justin Jefferson there, and Thielen, and Cousins can hold his own. I think their offense will be fine. And like I said, they've lost some close games to some good teams this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Vikings in this one. I think they can go in and beat Baltimore, even though they're on the road.
I should have warned you before you made that pick. G Money also takes the Vikings. Okay. New England Patriots. They go down to Carolina.
Who are you taking? Who are you taking?
I'm taking Baltimore.
Oh, okay. Figures.
Pats go. That's why I thought you'd figure that. Pats go to Carolina. This is an interesting game. We have a little subplot. Stephon Gilmore is playing against the Pats this weekend. He had a pick last week. By the way, the pick clinched the game for Carolina. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, and Christian McCaffrey should be back.
Supposed to play, right?
Right. So, I look at this. I look at the one thing about this is Belichick pretty much can handle the quarterback for
Sam Darnold. Yeah, because Sam Darnold.
He can handle Sam Darnold because he was on the Jets. He played him. He owns him.
Yeah.
So look at that as one of the factors. Patriots playing pretty good lately. Here they go on the road. As a Patriots fan, I think that, hey, this is a game they should win. Even though it's on the road, they should go and win. And you know what? I shouldn't even say even though it's on the road, because the Patriots road, I think they're undefeated on the road.
They are playing better on the road than they are at home. Yes.
Yeah. So I just, even though it looks like Carolina with Christian McCaffrey coming back and all the pieces kind of fall into place there, but look at Carolina. They started the year 3-0. Then they lost 4 straight. And then last week they barely beat Atlanta to get back to 500 to 4-4.
Right.
Patriots better team. Belichick will figure out a way to just key in on McCaffrey. He has Sam Donald's number. I'm taking the Patriots.
I'm with you. By the way, G Money also takes the Patriots. I don't know if you're a little nervous now. All right. The game we talked about a few moments ago, a big one here in the AFC North. Cleveland goes to Cincinnati. This is a big one. By the way, the loser of this game, they may not make the playoffs. They could be done, right? So this is a big game for both these teams.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati got a big wake-up call by losing to the Jets last week, albeit on a pretty controversial, targeting call there at the end.
Yes.
But still, I think Cincinnati, Cleveland's just, they got too much turmoil going on in that team, in that locker room right now. I like the Bengals.
I want to take Cleveland because I love Baker. I think this is the kind of stuff that inspires him to play better, but I'm with you. I think Cincinnati just has enough talent to win this game, especially at home. So I'm taking Cincinnati. G Money does too. All right. Arizona goes and plays San Fran, the 49ers. Jimmy G had a pretty good game last week. Couple touchdowns, 300 yards. Kyler Murray was injured. Suppose he was a little bit questionable, but now they say he's going to play, I guess. But it's a leg injury, so that makes me a little bit nervous. What do you think?
Yeah, and for that reason, I'm taking San Francisco. I think if Arizona and Kyler Murray are going into this game completely healthy, I'd feel a little bit different. But I like what I saw out of San Francisco last week, and I like what Jimmy G's doing. I'm just going to stick with the Debo Samuel has been ridiculous. I think Ayuk's becoming now part of that offense finally. Their running game is a little suspect still. I don't think Mitchell's the answer there, but I still like the Niners. I'm going to go with San Francisco.
I want to pick the Niners. I've been picking them all year long. They've burned me too many times, but I've got to love my Oklahoma grad, Kyler Murray. Hopefully he's healthy enough to run around a little bit. I'm taking Arizona.
Right.
All right, here's a big one. It's not as big as it was supposed to be because of the fact that A-Rod's not playing. Green Bay goes to KC. We may start the Jordan Love era tomorrow, Sunday. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, normally without Aaron Rodgers on the road in Kansas City, it just sounds like so easy to take Kansas City, right? But I look at this as almost like the Dallas-Minnesota game, and you had a Dallas team without Dak, a Minnesota team that's pretty good that you think could maybe beat a team with a quarterback that's really never played before, right? With Cooper Rush. And guess what? Dallas is deep. They're a deep team with a lot of talent, and they won the game. And I'm looking at Green Bay the same way. I think Green Bay is deep. I think they can run the football very well with that combination of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And if they just can pound the rock on the ground, and we know how porous that Kansas City run defense is, they can control the clock, and I think they can win this game. And Devontae Adams is back. He was on COVID last week, right? But he's back.
Right. They're all back. The three receivers are all back.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even watch Love in preseason or anything like that. I haven't seen him on the field or anything. And I know this is his first game anyways, but I think this is the same thing as Cooper Rush. It's going to be this Cooper Rush all over again. And I think.
So are you taking Green Bay?
I'm going to take Green Bay. I don't like the way Kansas City's playing. They barely beat the Giants at home last week. I mean, come on. I'm taking Green Bay.
Wow.
Yep.
I like your reasoning. I believe you're right. I think they're going to run the ball. I love A.J. Dillon. You know that. BC kid. I think he's a great running back. Aaron Jones is a nice change of pace running back. I think that Patrick Mahomes finally says, I got to shit or get off the pot at the end of the day. And he finds a way to pull this game out. Because if he doesn't, I mean, the window's closing for him pretty fast if he loses this game. Don't you agree?
Yeah, this seems just a mystery to me right now. So
yeah, I'm going Green Bay. I know G Money. Right. He likes KC. I'm going KC. I'm sorry. G Money likes KC as well. So, but you're going Green Bay. Good pick.
That's the only pick. That's the only pick I have different than G Money this week.
Yeah. All right. So. Titans without Derrick Henry to go against that team we talked about at the top here, the LA Rams. Whew.
Yeah. Rams all day.
Me too. I mean, how can it be anything else, right?
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, you got a little dynasty trade you want to socialize with us. Let's hear this one. You gave me a little wind of it. I'm like still scratching my head.
Yeah. All right. So this is an interesting one, right? So let me go to my app here. This was a big trade involving Derrick Henry. So someone bailed on Derrick Henry, and it was
okay. But the fact is, some idiot picked him up.
Yeah. Right. So we have. Here's the trade. Derrick Henry for Damian Harris, running back in New England, of course.
Yep.
And a first round pick in 2022, which is actually my pick.
Okay.
I traded that pick for David Montgomery.
Okay.
Before the season had started. So that's my pick. I'll probably end up picking somewhere on the top. I'll finish in the top part of the league. So this will be a lower half first round pick.
Okay.
And then, and then 3 third round picks in 2022. So a first round pick in 2022 and 3 third round picks in 2022 and Damian Harris for Derrick Henry. I remember it's a 12-team league. So when you're talking about a third round, you're talking about picks 25 through 36.
If you're the one getting Derrick Henry, first of all, you don't get nothing out of him for the rest of the year. Does his stats carry over from the previous games that happened this year? No, right? Like the guy that just picked up Henry, do they get hit? They don't get his stats from earlier this year.
No.
So you basically get nothing from him the rest of the year. And he's a running back who's been in the league 6 years, who's 250 pounds with an injury to his foot. He's a guy whose foot is always being pounded on at 250 pounds, 6 years in the league. He'll be 7 next year. You may not see any production out of him ever again. That's stupid.
Okay, so you're thinking now. The only thing is the guy who sacrificed all his draft picks has just stocked up on draft picks. So he had 6. I think he already traded one of them. This might be another one. He still has 3 or 4 first round picks next.
That's fine, but Derrick Henry, you get nothing. I mean, you probably never get anything out of ever again.
Yeah, right. And there's just more assets that you could have acquired in next year's draft. I agree with you. I'm on board. I think it's
by the way, fans, that's why I say fantasy is for the non-football players out there. That's why when he said dynasty football trade, dynasty fantasy trade, I thought it was Linda Evans for Victoria Principal. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, PB signing off. Good show, brother. Talk to you soon.
Take care, people.